Welcome to my PowerPoint on deck fixing in Balatro. So what is deck fixing? The average Balatro deck actually has 52 cards in it, just like a regular deck of cards. Each one of them has 4 suits per card from 2 to 10, the 3 face cards, Jack, Queen, King, and Aces. That, of course, does not apply to Erratic deck, Abandoned deck, or Checker deck. Abandoned deck has no face cards, Checker deck has only hearts and spades, and Erratic deck has random card distribution. So deck fixing is incredibly important for many aspects of the game, right? If you want to always be hitting the same kind of poker hand, deck fixing is important. If you want to be having a lot of one kind of enhancement or one kind of suit, deck fixing is incredibly important. If you want to have a smaller deck so that you can cycle through it more often, so you're playing every card in your deck to maximize the value of, say, purple seals or blue seals or gold seals, it's important. Deck fixing is a concept of I'm taking the tools in the game, typically tarot cards, to manipulate my deck to make it easier. So there's a lot of different things. There's trimming, which comes through many ways of destroying cards that make it so you have less cards in your deck. You can add enhancements such as gold, silver, lucky, bonus, molt. You can add seals like the purple seal, the blue seal, or the red seal, and all of these will make your deck better to make it so that it's easier to play the hands that you're going to score and win the game. So let's start with Spectral cards. A lot of Spectral cards do help a lot with deck fixing. Cryptid is an incredibly popular one for the fact that if you hit a already fixed card, fixed meaning it has the enhancements, seals, and potentially additions that you want on it, hitting it with Cryptid is incredibly valuable. On the flip side, Cryptid's not that good for, well, making those cards in the first place. Cryptid, of course, creates 2 exact copies, including, enhancements, additions, and seals, of a selected card in your hand. This is very strong. Do not get me wrong. If you're playing, the most iconic build, of course, for Crypt that makes use of Cryptids are if you're trying to go for high score runs using Perkio. Perkio copying negative Cryptids, you can then create copies of Red Seal Steel Kings for high card decks, and that's a very, very popular nan-inf method. Aura is a really interesting Spectral card. It's not one of the best, and typically I'm never picking it because of the fact that it is random, but if you do hit on Aura, it's super powerful. Aura adds foil, holographic, or polychrome addition to the card, or to a selected card. Foil adds plus 50 chips, holographic, gives plus 10 molt, and then polychrome actually gives times 1.5 molt when scored, when scored. So that's really, really useful. I will not say that you need to have additions on your cards for them to be, completed or fully fixed, but it does help, and it's kind of a win more in a lot of situations. Yes, having a full, playing 5 of a kind of all, polychrome, red seal, glass cards, that's super, super awesome when it does happen, but it's not too consistent. Aura, in a realistic sense, Aura is a luxury of a Spectral card. It's a luxury to have on your cards. So if you are in a powerful situation, that's the best way to use it, I find. But I don't know. It is important to note though that foil and holographic are realistically just directly better than bonus and molt, which we'll get to later, of course. So I wouldn't really. You can combine them, but it's not very. It would not be very good, I have to say. So I talked about seals earlier. Seals are one of, if not the most powerful thing you can add to a card. A lot of the time they are supportive to a lot of cards as well, though. Trance adds a blue seal to one card, Deja Vu adds a red seal, Talisman adds a gold seal, and Medium adds a purple seal. Blue seal is super, super powerful. In my opinion, it is the strongest one. But what it does is when you have a blue seal card in your hand, if it's in your hand at the end of the round, or when you finish and win, it will give you a planet of the hand you used to win the round. That's really valuable. A lot of times it actually is pretty difficult to get a lot of levels in your poker hand in some situations, right? So having a way to generate it for free, right? Once you have a blue seal, either getting it from Spectral Pack, Certificate, Ghost Deck can give it to you, Omen Globe, or getting it from, like a standard pack, it gives you so much value for the rest of your run. Even if for the rest of your run, right, you're getting like 5 or 6, let's say, planet cards from your trance, that's still a lot of score that you generate. What is it? Flushes give 25 chips and 2 molt every time you have it. So if you have 5 Jupiters that you generated from trance, that's 125 chips and 10 molt that you got from 1 blue seal. That doesn't even include the fact that blue seals, of course, work with Mime. They're very good to have on steel or gold cards because they're lasting in your hand. And just in general, they're very, very powerful. Red seals from Deja Vu, or any of the other ways I've listed, re-trigger the card when it is played or if it activates in your hand, which means that it's very powerful with steel or gold cards because they activate in your hand. The red seal will re-trigger them. They're still very powerful if you play them as well, because of many jokers have effects on when cards trigger their effect or they score, right? So you could have Photograph, a very popular joker that many people know about is Photograph. Every time the first face card triggers, it gets ×2 molt to your score. The known use, or like very common use of that, is to use it with Hanging Chad, right? Because it will re-trigger it twice. The red seal will re-trigger it 1 additional time to increase the molt from ×8 to ×16 because, Photo Chat. Super powerful, right? Red seals are at their best, though, when you're playing them in kind of a hand where you're playing a lot of cards, right? If you're playing a 5 of a kind or a flush 5, right? Having a lot of red seal glass cards is super, super powerful. And although I would personally say red seal is the weakest of the 4, that doesn't mean it's bad, right? It's just the other 3 provide more utility, where red seal is strictly only for scoring, but there's a lot of ways to score in this game versus not as many ways to do what the other seals do. Gold seal, when these cards scores, it gives you $3. I don't need to explain to people why money in Balatro is amazing. Money does everything. Money makes up for luck in this game. Money does everything you could ever want it to do and more. Having more money is always going to be better in this game. It helps it so that you can get through interest caps. It can make it so that if you have a rental joker, it can pay off the rental before the end of the round so that you can have the maximum interest. It works with re-triggers to give you a lot of money. Do note that it has to actually score for it to get money. So if you say you're trying to play a high card and one of those cards, not the highest card, has a gold seal on it, it's not going to do anything. Same thing for red seal. And then medium. Medium is incredibly interesting and with purple seals. Purple seals, when discarded, give you a random tarot card, and tarot cards are incredibly powerful. Purple seal is the best seal if you're trying to deck fix, the topic of the video, because you're generating so many tarot cards. You can generate a Hanged Man, you can generate a Death, you could generate a Sun if you're playing a Hearts, you can generate Lovers if you're playing like a build that wants to make use of a lot of wild cards or different suits, like if you're using Ancient Joker. All 4 of the seals, incredibly powerful. Getting them will have a positive effect on your run, and it kind of incentivizes you to take standard packs more often than they really do. Standard packs, in my opinion, have gone up in my priority once I've started prioritizing using seals more, and I've started to win more games more runs because I'm picking up seals, especially early, that can transition into more powerful mid to late game, for more money, or more scoring, or more scaling, or more deck fixing. It's just, they're incredibly powerful. Incantation, Familiar, and Grim are all incredibly simple. Incantation destroys 1 random card in your hand to add 4 enhanced numbered cards. Familiar does that, but to add 3 enhanced face cards, and then Grim does that to add 2 enhanced aces. These are obviously amazing with hologram, but that's a topic for a different video. But they can give you a lot of direction. I use this term direction a lot of times when I talk about deck fixing or or just a lot of my videos, because direction is actually really important. When you go into a game or a run of Balatro, you start the run completely with nothing, right? You don't have jokers, you don't have any enhanced cards, you have a, like, equal amount of every card in your deck, right? But if you play these spectral cards, if you get them from any of the listed ways you can get spectral cards, they give you the opportunity to say, hey, I just got like 3 jacks from this familiar, I'm gonna play towards jacks and face cards. Hey, I just got like a bunch of lucky cards from my incantation, well, I'm gonna play towards lucky cards. The idea of direction, it helps deck fixing in so many ways, right? If you find a hanged man and a death, right, in one of your shops, right, you're gonna see those and think, man, I can't really get any value out of these, so I'd have to basically guess what I'm gonna get for the rest of the run and try and make it so that this isn't like a downside, right? Because it could be, right? If you hangman some 2s and then a wee joker comes out, you're like, damn, that's really awful. So spectral cards like these and getting direction is super, super important. Immolate is the best spectral card. Not even just talking about the deck fixing that it does provide, but the fact that it destroys 5 random cards in hand, which is nice, but you get $20. $20 is $20. Money is money is power. Money is amazing. Money does everything in this game. Let's move on to not some so great ones, because I'm not the first person to say Immolate is one of the best things in the entire game, especially spectral cards. There's many YouTubers that have already talked about that. So Ouija converts all cards in hand to a single random rank, but you lose 1 hand size. That's atrocious, by the way. Ouija's terrible. I don't know how else to describe it other than terrible. I think that I have not taken Ouija in my last 100 runs. The times that Ouija gets value is if you're like, I don't even know, because the biggest thing about having all of your cards become 1 suit is that you get to play large hands, right? Not 1 suit, one rank. If you get like 5 kings, well, it would be more than 5 kings. It'd be 8 kings from the original Ouija, right? If you don't have any loss of your hand size, 8 of whatever, right? You're gonna want to be like, hey, I want to play a 5 of a kind or a 4 of a kind. But 4 of a kind, 5 of a kind directly does not work if you're losing hand size. It becomes incredibly hard to create those larger hands that Ouija should be making it easier to make. Contrast that with Sigil. Converts all cards in hand to a single random suit. Sigil has no downside. It's not amazing by any means, but there are times where Sigil is good. If you find Sigil on early antes, it can give you direction, that word again, to a flush build, or if you do have, if you have levels in Jupiter, but you don't really have any flush jokers, and you don't have much deck fixing, Sigil can help you there as well. In contrast to Ouija, where it just hurts you. It just hurts you. Like, the downside of Ectoplasm, right? Ectoplasm is incredibly powerful because it turns one of your jokers negative, so you can have an additional joker. But it comes at the downside of losing -1 hand, and then if you play another, -2, and another, -3. So, you're telling me that Ouija is supposed to be as powerful as Ectoplasm? No, it's not. And it has the same downside. Yeah. While Ouija and Sigil can help with deck fixing, don't do it. It's better to skip a pack sometimes than to take something like Ouija. It actively is better to skip the Spectral pack than to take Ouija. Now let's look at some of the jokers that help with deck fixing. Of course, there are, the incredibly obvious ones, right? DNA and trading card. If the first hand of round has only 1 card, add a permanent copy to your deck and draw it to hand. That's not technically what DNA does. Yes, it does do that, right? But you wouldn't think of the fact that it overcaps the hand size limit. And that's incredibly important. Yes, DNA is useful in generating a lot of one kind of card, right? But and I find the main power of DNA is that if you play, say, high card, I already mentioned steel cards, if anyone knows, high cards are really, use a lot of steel cards. If you're playing a high card build, DNA will make it so that if you only have one DNA, it'll make it so you still have a full hand of 8 of steel cards to get a lot of value out of high card. But if you have copy effects of the DNA, it will overcap your hand to make it, to add to get you a higher score. So if you have blueprints and brainstorms on your DNA, you could add 3, 4, 5, depending on how many you have, extra cards to your hand, so you'll overcap your hand size, making it so high card, which its strongest aspect is having a lot of cards in your hand to make use of, red seal and steel. DNA gives you even more cards to your hand. It makes it so you effectively have a higher hand size, effectively. It is important to note, though, that if you are, not really playing a high card, DNA can still be useful, obviously, but if you're not playing high card, that scenario isn't that useful, right? Because you're not going to draw new cards, which is like the upside of playing, the side effect of playing cards or discarding is that you'll draw new ones, right? With DNA, if you're overcapped on your hand size, you cannot draw a new card, so you do have to be careful. That being said, though, DNA, incredibly powerful. There are many nan-inf builds, nan-inf attempts that make use of DNA getting copied to add extra red seal steel kings, I keep saying that, to your hand to make it so that you can score way, way, way higher, right? And yeah, maybe it's only 3, 4, 5, it's extra kings, but that still adds up and makes it so these nan-inf attempts are more possible. In a typical 8 ante run, gold stake, DNA, the value you get from it is going to be there and it can be significant, right? But it's really best when you're just trying to add a lot of one card to your deck and your deck is already a lot of that one card. Trading card, if first discard of round has only one card, destroy it and earn $3. Trading card is incredibly powerful. So it's easily the best way in the game to destroy a lot of cards, right? Because it works every single round. Immolate, yeah, it's a one-time 5, but that's one time, and it's not likely or consistent to get it. Hangman, yeah, it destroys 2 cards, but again, you're not guaranteed to have it like if you do have Trading Card. It's guaranteed to work every round, I guess, unless you hit the water and you can't discard, or if you need to discard more than one card to, do something. But you probably shouldn't have Trading Card anyway. The card destruction aspect of Trading Card is incredibly powerful, right? If you have 52 cards in your deck and you're like, okay, I just got Photograph, right? Again, using that because it's really powerful and popular Joker. Then you're like, hey, well, I'm just going to destroy all of the low-cost cards in my deck and trim my deck down, just making it so that I'm only really hitting these face cards so I can always score with them. On top of the fact that it gives you $3, money is OP. Rental Trading Card pays for itself, because of the fact, right? Rental Trading Card, I pick it up. I met, there are Jokers where you see them as rental and you're like, even though it's a powerful Joker, I can't afford it, right? Trading Card completely pays for itself, and it's just such a powerful Joker. The fact that you destroy things as well can be useful as well, right? There's Glass Joker and Kenio, I think, are the only Jokers in the game that do mention if something's destroyed, but Trading Card does work for both of them. Yes, Trading Card does work to destroy glass cards for Glass Joker. So, Certificate and Mail and Rebate are really interesting, I find. Certificate is not the only Joker that adds cards to your deck, but it's definitely the best one. When round begins, add a random playing card with a random seal to your hand. Now, I already talked about how powerful seals were, so being able to add them to your deck is very, very useful. It does work with Hologram as well, which is, powerful Joker, but the fact that you're able to get these seals to your hand is super nice, on top of the fact that, like I said before, if you get a blue seal and that's still in your hand by the end of the round, that's, extra scaling. If you get a gold seal, it gives you money then and there. If you get red seal, you can convert it into something more powerful later. Or purple seal, of course, you discard it for a tarot card, which can be incredibly useful. It does only give you one card per round. Of course, with copy effects, it can give more. So don't rely on it too heavily. And realistically, it can technically fill your deck with garbage, right? You could get like a million diamond 2s with red seal, and you're not playing a build that works for that at all. So it is a little risky and very RNG reliant, but if you pick it up early, it could just give you so much, wait for it, direction towards your run that it really does make up for itself. Mail-in rebate, oh my. Earn $5 for each discarded card of a certain rank. Rank changes each round. Mail-in rebate, similar to Idle, checks your deck for every card in it. If you don't have, say, like if you don't have any 2s, it will never show 2s on the mail-in rebate. Which means if your deck is full of only one card, you get unreal amounts of money from this. So you can discard 5 cards per hand, and for most decks, you can get up to 4 discards. You can do more if you find, you know, Drunkard, which gives you 1 discard, or Merry Andy, which gives you 3 discards, or if you're Red Deck, which gives you another discard. Anyway, so the average deck can get up to 4 discards that can hold 5 cards and give 5 cards each. So in a fully built or deck fixed world, you can be getting $100 from mail-in rebate. Are you going to be doing that? Yeah, in the late game, probably not in the early game, but it still gives a lot of money, and deck fixing does make it more consistent, right? Again, if you cut all the bottom like garbage out of your deck and you only have jacks, queens, and kings, then mail-in rebate is cycling through 3 different cards basically to give you a lot of money. Like, I mean, a lot of money. Mail-in rebate's really probably the best money joker in the game. I don't know what else comes close if I had to guess. Like, I guess, I mean, technically, probably Hanging Chad would be the best, but whatever. Mail-in rebate, super powerful. And just, the money that you're getting helps you deck fix more. So it's kind of like it's almost a snowballing kind of joker in the term of deck fixing. You know what I mean? I love it. I love these jokers. They're so awesome. Now, the last jokers I want to talk about are Sixth Sense and Idle. There are a few others that help for deck fixing, but I'm not going to talk about every single joker in the entire game. Let's be real here. Sixth Sense, if the first hand of round is a single 6, destroy it and create a Spectral card. So it destroys a card, which is useful. Even though it is only 6s, you can still, trim your deck a little bit with it, sell it later, you're pretty happy. And then getting a Spectral card, a lot of Spectral cards are powerful, right? Immolate's really good. All of the seals are really good. You could hit Ectoplasm, right? You could hit Cryptid. There's a lot of very powerful ones. This is, one of 2 ways to add a Spectral card to your consumable slot if you're not playing Ghost deck. It's one of the only 2 ways, the other being Seance. So if you're playing, Perkio, great way to add Spectral cards there. It's just a solid joker that, honestly, I see people hating on and not really using to its fullest potential. It's not something that you're supposed to, add a bunch of 6s to your deck to work around. It's a joker that you pick up when you're in, a pretty solid spot, right? You're probably winning your rounds, probably don't need any extra scoring, but you'd like to, find more deck fixing in some way. Sixth Sense definitely helps with it, especially if you are able to hit, purple seals or Immolate. Oh my gosh, I've had a run where I used Sixth Sense. I got rid of all 4 6s in my deck by ante 3. I hit 2 Immolates and 2 different seals. I'm not quite sure which of the seals are, but I do remember the 2 Immolates, and it just wins your run. It just wins your run on the spot. Immolate is hitting Immolate wins your run if you hit it early enough. It's so powerful. The Idol is just the ultimate deck fixing joker. Each played rank of suit, so any rank, any suit, gives ×2 molt when scored. If you only have one card, type of card in your deck, if you only have Jack of Clubs in your deck, and you play 5 Jack of Clubs, it's ×2, ×2, ×2, ×2, ×2. Retriggers make that even better. Like Red Seal or, Sock and Buskin, Hack, Hanging Chad, they all help the Idol a lot. Now, I've said this before, I've talked about Idol before. It is a very, very, very awkward and outright pretty bad joker to use in a real 8 anti-gold stake run. If you find it in, you have deck fixing done, yeah, it can be very powerful, or if you're working towards it, can be very powerful, but you have to be very careful because it could just you can get screwed by it. You could only have one card in your deck that isn't the right card, and Idol could hit it, you could lose your run on it. So do be careful for anyone taking Idol in any way. Just, you have to be very careful from it. Otherwise, though, it's incredibly powerful. It's one of the best ways to score in the entire game. It has the same scoring potential as a legendary Joker, right? That should tell you how powerful Idol is. Idol effectively acts as Photograph, you know, right, if you're hitting certain builds. So, yeah, it's just, although it is fairly inconsistent once you get it going, really one of the strongest Jokers in the entire game. Now we're going to move to tarot cards. While they're... Okay. Tarot cards, the amount of deck fixing they provide is relatively inconsistent. Now, hear me out, because of the fact there are so many, right? There are, of course, incredibly powerful ones, like Hangman and Magician. But then there's some other ones that are pretty bad. So, I'm not saying that, like, don't take Arcana packs, don't get me wrong, but do watch out for the tarot cards that are more bait than others. Hangman destroys up to 2 selected cards. This is just one of the best ways to remove cards from your deck, right? Removing cards from your deck, we've already talked about, is incredibly powerful. Making your deck smaller and removing cards you don't really want to be playing helps it so that you're always hitting the poker hands you want. And again, if you have less cards in your deck, you can cycle through your deck and actually see all the cards in your deck, right? 52 cards, if you're playing 4 hands and 2 discards, can only get you through 30 cards in your deck, right? So there's still 22 that you wouldn't be able to see. If you remove those 22 cards, 4 hands, right? 5 cards each is 20. 2 discards, 5 cards each, 30. If you remove 22 cards, you can see every single card in your deck, which can matter, right? If you're playing, you know, if you want to be using blue seals, if you want to be using your seals, if you want to get all your answer, or if you just specifically need one specific poker hand to win, yeah, smaller deck sizes, just very powerful. You can use it to, you know, trim for flushes by destroying suits that you don't want. You can use it to trim for straights by chopping off, you know, like the high, you know, ace, king, queen, jack, which is, you know, what I typically do, and, you know, the lows of like 4, 2, and 3 and 2. Do note that it's just really more consistent to play a 10 through 5 like area of straights than to try and make like a royal flush or ace through 5 work. Just doesn't work. Like, you can do it, but in Gold Stake it's so hard because you only have one, because you lose 1 discard. Anyway, Magician creates 2 lucky cards, and oh boy. So lucky cards, what they do is they have a 1 in 5 chance to give plus 20 molt and a 1 in 15 chance to give $20. So lucky cards are, for the most part, realistically the best enhancement for a regular 8 anti Gold Stake run. Of course, you know, like of cards you're going to be playing, right? So the reason for this is that the other ones are just either really inconsistent and not reliable like Glass, or they just kind of suck like Bonus and Molt. Yeah, lucky cards, you're not always hitting them, right? But when they do hit, they're so powerful, and, you know, they give you money. They work incredibly well with re-triggers, because every time the card triggers, they have a chance to go off. And, well, Lucky Cat exists. Lucky Cat is really, really, really powerful. It gives times 0.25 volt every time a lucky card triggers, and, you know, if you have Oops All Sixes and a bunch of re-trigger effects, you can scale your Lucky Cat really, really high. On top of the fact that if you hit a money shot 1 in 15, or the 2 in 15 from the if you have a Oops All Sixes, that's huge. I'm not even joking. Before I recorded this video, just to get, you know, a better feel about deck fixing, I went and played a run where I played a bunch of lucky cards, and I had 2 hands back to back where my Hanging Chad with a lucky card gave me $60. I actually popped off in real life. I wish I could show you guys. It was so awesome. That being said, the money it provides is just so huge. That's like the main draw of lucky cards, is that, yes, in theory, if you're playing 5 lucky cards, you're likely to hit 1 20 molt, right? Which is technically equivalent to playing 5 molt cards, which would also give you 20 molt. But do those Molt cards have a chance of giving you money? No, they do not. Lucky cards are goated. Chariot and Devil are super powerful. Like I said, I did say that Magician is probably the best enhanced card, but that's for cards you're actually playing. If I had to really say what the best enhanced card is, it's probably going to be gold cards. In my opinion, personally, money is OP, and it's very consistent. Now, let's start with Chariot. Enhance one selected card into a steel card. Steel cards, when held in hand, give 1.5x Molt after the scoring phase, right? The third step in the scoring calculation. If you don't know, the way that Balatro kind of calculates scoring is that you have the poker hand itself will make it score. Then you have the hand you played, so the chips from the cards, any enhancements they have, any jokers that are affected by that. Then you have your hand that goes off. Then the other jokers go off. So Chariot steel cards work steel cards. Yeah, sorry, they work incredibly well if you're playing either hands that want to have a lot of steel cards in your hand, or hands that have a lot of like trigger effects in that second stage of the effect, or having a very high poker hand score. So yeah, it's incredibly powerful. It's well known that Red Seal Steel King, I say that a lot, is a very powerful thing for the fact that, well, if you have a red seal on a steel card, it will do 1.5, then 1.5 again. And then, sorry, I just got a text. Then the king actually works for barons, right? Like I said, the main power of of Chariot in steel cards is having a lot of them. So playing hands like high card repair gives you as many in your hand as possible. DNA also helps this as well, as I was talking about earlier. And while it isn't the best if your jokers are kind of the ones that are scoring for you, because if they give flat Molt and you're multiplying that, it's still very powerful to pick up a couple of steel cards, as just they're going to be in your hand at the end of the round, so they can have, they could have blue seals on them to make it so that you get these planets. A lot of if it hasn't been obvious yet, a lot of these deck fixing tools synergize very, very well with each other, which is actually very interesting in the fact that the game is just really well designed. And I don't really see people talking about like the fact that the deck fixing part of the game is so well designed. That's just me. Then we get to Devil. Okay, I made a statement where I said that I think gold card is the best enhancement. Of course, I've said so many times in this video, so many times in my other videos, that money is everything in Balatro, right? If you have a lot of money, you can get a lot of jokers. If you have a lot of jokers, you can win the game. Devil costs $3. All tarot cards cost $3. But the gold cards give you 3 cards at the end of round if it is held in your hand. They'll re-trigger on Red Seal, or re-trigger with Mime, etc. So why is this important? Devil costs $3, gold card gives you $3. You're putting that math together in your head and you're thinking, wait a minute, so I'm not losing any money, right? But then, for the rest of your run, you now have a gold card in your deck, which only is going to give you profit. I've come to this, like, place where if I see a devil in my shop, even if it lowers my interest, right? Say I'm at $25 and puts me $22. By the way, gold cards give you money before the interest, so I'll always take the devil. I will always take it. Because worst case scenario, right? You just put it on a card in your hand and then you get your money back. That's the worst case scenario. Like, boo-hoo, right? It's just so powerful. It's effectively free, and it just gives you money for the rest of your run. I see people skip Devil when they have realistically enough money for where they're at and don't have enough money generation to justify skipping it, right? Please pick up Devil more. Please, guys. Like, don't pick it up all the time, right? Especially, like, check your run, like, check your surroundings, make sure that it actually makes sense to pick up, etc. But there's more situations than not that Devil is a worthwhile pickup, and I will die on this hill that I think it is the best tarot card. Or, well, one of the best, but I think gold cards are the best enhancement. Okay, now let's talk about the worst tarot card. Lovers. Enhance one selected card into a wild card. While wild cards aren't terrible, they don't offer any scoring, any money, any, deck fixing, etc. All they do is they make it so one card is every suit. And if you have good enough deck fixing where you're hitting, sun, moon, world, and star, then that doesn't really help you, does it? The only situation where wild cards actually really matter is with Ancient Joker, because, well, Ancient Joker, it cycles through each suit, and you can't deck fix around Ancient Joker. It's just it will always cycle through each suit, where, for an Ancient Joker run, you want to have as many cards as possible that are wild cards to make use of that. I talked about before about Idol. Ancient Joker gives the same amount of scoring as Idol, so yeah, it's really powerful. Lovers has already been stated by Local Thunk as something that's on his radar of a tarot, or just something in general that needs to be changed. Getting one wild card is terrible, just in general. But that's not just it. Local Thunk made posts saying that he plans to do more with wild cards to help them not just be completely useless as an enhancement, because again, all of the other ones offer some form of money or scoring or just anything, right? Lovers kind of don't. So Justice enhances one card into a glass card. Glass cards give ×2 molt when scored and have a 1 in 4 chance to break. That's why I personally think that lucky cards are a little bit better than glass cards on average, but if you're talking about pure raw scoring, glass cards are just nothing, no other enhancement beats them, right? Red seal glass cards, they'll trigger again to get more scoring, and every time you re-trigger a glass card, it doesn't check to break, so you can re-trigger a glass card technically infinite times and only check once in that one if there's a 1 in 4 to break. Do note that you have to be careful if you have something like Oops All Sixes, right? But most people are going to notice that, not use Oops All Sixes with glass cards unless utterly necessary. An underrated aspect of glass cards I do find is using it as deck fixing, and by that I mean putting a glass on a card that you want to break, right? Now, a lot of the time you're putting it on cards you don't want to break, for scoring, but if you say put it on a red, or a heart, or 9 of hearts, right? And you're like, I don't need this. Throw it out there, you get really lucky and it breaks. Wow, that's just pretty decent. That's not, the best way to use it, but there are situations that do call for that, and when it is used like that, it's fun, honestly. There's a million runs that Raffle has done where he'll show off, right? Multiple re-triggers with red seal glass cards. So you can definitely find those if you're interested in the upper echelon of what glass cards can do for scoring. But typically you only really need 1 or 2 of them to help you win, right? If you have a Hanging Chad, if you have a Hanging Chad, glass cards are the same amount of molt as a photograph, so it can work there. They're very, very powerful, but again, do be careful with them because of the fact they will break. Okay, so Empress and Hierophant are interesting. They're really not that good, all things considered, but they're really powerful in the early game. Empress creates 2 molt cards, and Hierophant creates 2 bonus cards. Molt cards give +4 molt when scored, bonus cards give +30 chips. For the most part, they're roughly equivalent, right? One or the other is better with certain jokers and stuff like that, but for the most part, they're roughly equivalent. The main power of these two is if you find them in the early game, they can kind of carry you through certain for certain rounds and certain bosses because of the fact that they spike so hard. If you play a straight 30 times 4 molt, and you add 2 molt cards to say you play King, Queen, Jack, 10, 9, right? You add 2 molt cards, then it becomes 30 plus all the chips, which is 49, so 79 plus 12, right? That increased the scoring by a lot by adding +8 molt. That is really, really powerful in the early and sometimes mid game if you have re-triggers, but they do both get super outscaled by almost everything in the entire game. There's very few jokers that don't just outright outscale these while also having better enhanced cards to use with them because you're not going to be using these. That being said, though, the fact that they... Sorry, I hit my mic. The fact that they they're so strong early makes it so that I will have runs where I'll open a shop. I'll see I could either buy a tarot card that's like an Empress or Hierophant for $3, or I could, open the Buffoon pack for $4 and, likely not hit anything actually useful. I'm probably going to take the Empress or Hierophant. I have to be honest with you. And that's just awesome, right? That the game has that many options that, hey, while they might not be amazing, they bog down the pool for the most part, they still have their use cases that makes it so that they're not completely worthless. And now last but very certainly not least, we have Tower and Death as the... So Tower makes it so that one card becomes a stone card. Tower, although you might think, well, isn't that like not the most useful, right? Stone cards, they're fine, right? They give 50 chips. They work in any hand that you play them with. They'll activate no matter what. Even if you play a high card, right? They'll activate even if it's not working, or pair, etc. But the main thing is that it acts as removing the card from your deck for these jokers that rely on deck fixing, like Mail and Rebate or Idle, right? On top of the fact that, like, hey, if you do have like a 2 of hearts that you want to get rid of, turn into a stone card, you don't have to really get rid of that. You don't have to get rid of the stone card, right? You can get rid of other garbage instead. So you just upgraded a card in your deck. I'm not saying go out of your way to use a Tower over better tarot cards, but if you do generate it randomly from a purple seal or whatever, I find it pretty good to just turn cards that are just effectively garbage into my deck into stone cards, because let's face it, it's going to happen where you're going to have to play hands to act as discards, right? That's just a natural thing that happens in Balatro, happens in every run, almost always. It just happens, right? So getting a little bit more scoring, while in the grand scheme of things might not be the most important, for some runs, that can be the difference between life and death, right? Getting that 50 chips to where, times whatever your mult is from the stone card, it really can matter. Also, this is just a little side note. I didn't say this about bonus cards because, stone cards are just better. You can technically play like 5 stone cards with like a plasma deck, and that's awesome. I've done it. I've had runs where I'll play, Marble Joker, Stone Joker, take as many towers as possible, and just play as many stone cards as possible with plasma deck. So, yeah, I mean, Tower is like objectively stronger while playing plasma deck than almost any other deck. So, maybe take it more often, guys. Maybe instead of like skipping a shot or skipping a pack where you're like, this really isn't that useful, just take the Tower. And then Death. Death is, of course, the ultimate deck fixing tarot card. Select 2 cards, convert the left card into the right card. If you already have something really good, it will not only create a copy of it, but it'll also remove a bad card from your deck. Just very, very solid. A lot of the times I like to hold Death, depending on the situation, right? Of course. But if I have, a bunch of blue seals or a bunch of purple seals, sometimes I'll just use Death to copy a purple seal, discard, 2 purple seals instead of 1, and then get Death back. Like, Death on a purple seal is very high value, I find, because of the fact that you can just generate another Death if you're lucky enough, or generate a Fool, or, I mean, to be honest, generate, Hermit and Temperance and, every tarot card. But yeah, there's so many scenarios where Death is like an incredibly flexible card, and using it correctly is honestly quite hard. That's like a thing about Balatro, is the skill floor of the game might not be the highest, but the skill ceiling of the game is actually quite high. Like, even myself, I don't even think I'm remotely close to the skill ceiling of this game. There's so many people that like are on YouTube or like are streamers that are just way, way better, and they're not even close to the skill ceiling of the game. Decision making is super important, and Death offers so many different decisions that it can really make or break your run if you if you don't use it correctly. And I don't know, I like to talk about like different aspects of this game because I like it so much. And if you like it too, you should consider, liking the video, commenting, subscribing if you enjoyed. My socials are there on screen if you want to follow or join my Discord. They're also down in the description. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. I've been first real talk here for a second. Finals week has been kicking my ass. So this is going to be the only video, probably. There might be one other this week, but yeah, I do have plans for the 20,000 subscribers special. It's not going to come out for a little bit because, like I said, I want to finish my finals first. And over the summer, I'm going to be streaming as much as I can. Literally, anytime that I have an opportunity to stream, I'm going to be streaming. So make sure, hit the bell to see when that happens. Join my Discord, because I always at my Discord, and that happens if you're interested. I love this game, and I think, don't quote me on this, I think that the update will be coming soon, and if the update comes out soon, then I'm just going to be non-stop streaming. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I will see you all next time. Peace out. Bye-bye.